Sairam students, let's begin with today's session. Today we are going to begin with history. Okay, the new chapter of history. But before coming to the main topic, main chapter's name, let me ask you some simple questions based on that. Okay, you all know very well Britishers came to India, right? For what they came to India? What was the main purpose of the Britishers to come to our country, India? Yes, right. They came for trading, right? So that from the trade they can earn more and more money from our country, right? But then what we have seen, initially they came as the traders, but slowly and gradually they became the ruler of our country, right? So, in chapter number 2, we are going to learn from trade to territory. That means from traders to rulers, how the company establishes power, okay? Now, let's go through the content of a chapter. First, we are going to just see basically the introduction of this chapter. Then we have the main three topics in this chapter. That is, East India Company comes to East. Then the second topic is company rule expands and setting up a new administration. Children, you can see the three main topics have been given to you. In each and every main topic, we have some subtopics under that. So let's begin with the introduction. You all know very well Aurangzeb was the last of the powerful Mughal rulers, right? This is what he established control over a very large part of the territory that is known as country, the country that is India. Okay. After his death in 1707, many Mughal governors, that is Subedars and big zamindars means you all know very well, right, began asserting their authority. Asserting means like they were doing something to show other people that they have power, okay, and establishing regional kingdoms. Like instead of their whole kingdom, they were just having the small kingdoms ruling a small part of it, and they were dividing it in that particular regions. But by the second half of the 18th century, however, a new power was emerging on the political horizon, that is the British. Why? Because as the Mughal governors and the big zamindars, they started asserting their authority and established regional kingdoms. So powerful regional kingdom emerged in various parts of our country, that is India. So Delhi could no longer function as an effective center. That is the reason by the second half of the 18th century, a new power emerged, that is the Britishers. So here I have given you one image here. That is the image of Bahadur Shah Zafar. And you can see one image is there, that is there in your textbook also. In that, Bahadur Shah Zafar and his sons being arrested by Captain Hudson, that has been shown to you. That is, after Aurangzeb, there was no powerful Mughal ruler. See, you know, powerful Mughal ruler was Aurangzeb. He was the last one. But Mughal emperors continue to be symbolically important. In fact, when a massive rebellion against British rule broke out in 1857, Bahadur Shah Zafar, the Mughal emperor at the time, was seen as the natural leader. Once the revolt was put down by the company, Bahadur Shah Zafar was forced to leave the kingdom and his sons were shot in cold blood. Let's begin with the first topic, that is East India Company comes East. As I told you in the beginning only, the main three topics are there. Under that, subtopics are given here, right? So you can see under this, the main topic, East India Company comes East. We can see East India Company begins trade in Bengal, how trade led to battles, and the Battle of Plassey. Company officials become Nabob. So these are the subtopics that we are going to learn in this. Now the first main, East India Company comes East. In 1600, the East India Company acquired a charter. What is the meaning of charter, children? Charter, it's a formal document describing the rights, aims or principles of an organization or group of people. Okay. From the ruler of England, you can see the image has been given to you. That is the image of Queen Elizabeth I. granting it the sole right to trade with the East. This means that no other trading group in England could compete with the East India Company. With this charter, the company could venture across the oceans looking for new lands from which it could buy goods at a cheap price and carry them back to Europe to sell at higher prices. So the company did not have to fear competition from other English trading companies in this, because as the charter was issued, so charter itself indicates that the monopoly, it was given monopoly to East India Company by the ruler of England, that is Queen Elizabeth I, right? So the company did not have to fear competition from other English trading companies. Now here, mercantile trading companies. Mercantile means a business enterprise that makes profit. The main purpose of that business enterprise is to earn profit. So in this term, we can say here, buying goods, having trade and buying goods at the cheaper prices and selling them at higher prices. Now, mercantile trading companies means Portuguese, French and Dutch. In those days, made profit primarily by excluding competition so that they could buy cheap and sell dear. That means they could buy the goods at the cheaper prices and can sell to their countries at the higher prices. The Royal Charter, however, could not prevent other European powers from entering the eastern markets. It was Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese explorer, who had discovered the sea route to India in 1498. I have given you here the image of Vasco da Gama as well as the image that is showing you the routes to India in the 18th century. But already in 1498, that route has been discovered by Portuguese explorer, that is Vasco da Gama. Okay. Soon after the discovery, the Portuguese established their first trading center in Cochin in Kerala. They were followed by the Dutch, who arrived in the early 17th century and at first settled at the east coast of Tamil Nadu. Then the Dutch were closely followed by the English, who set up their first trading center in Surat in the west coast. By mid 17th century, the French traders too had arrived to our country, India. They established a major settlement in Puducherry. So, among all the European traders, the most prominent were the English. So, the main aim of the European trading companies what was their main aim? To buy goods at the cheap rate and sell them in the European markets at highly profitable rates. And what such trading companies were called as mercantile trading companies, right? By the early 17th century, the Dutch too were exploring the possibilities of trade in the Indian Ocean. Soon, the French traders also arrived on the scene. So, all these mercantile trading companies, Portuguese, French and Dutch, they were having the business, they were having the trade with our country, India. But the problem was that all the companies were interested in buying the same things. The fine qualities of cotton and silk produced in India had a great demand in Europe. Pepper, cloves, cardamom and cinnamon too were in great demand. I hope children you know the meaning of demand very well. As these things, all these spices as well as cotton and silk that were in great demand in our country. So even our country can increase the prices of that good, right? So that they can also earn the more profit. Correct? Then competition amongst the European countries, that is companies, inevitably pushed up the prices of these goods that could be purchased by them, right? And this reduced the profits that they could be earned. See, if our country, India, will increase the prices, definitely the profit margin of the European countries, European companies will decrease, right? Because previously the goods that they were purchasing at the lower prices, now they have to purchase at the higher prices, so their profit margins get decreased there, right? The only way that the trading companies could flourish was by eliminating rival competitors. Children, you can see here I have given you some images in the slide, right? Now the urge to secure markets that led to the fierce battles between the trading companies, and what they were doing through that, 17th and 18th centuries, what they did, the companies, they were regularly, they sank each other's ships, they blockaded routes and prevented rival ships from moving with supplies of goods. Why they were doing this? So that the ships could not reach to the shore, right? The trade could not flourish in that way. That is the reason. So trading companies had a fierce battle among each other. Then trade was carried on with arms. When it goes to that extent, definitely the arms has to be used to avoid all that, right? And the trading posts were protected through fortification. Trading post means like you can say the place from where the transactions were done. That post need to be protected by fortification. Fortification means by making some boundaries to that, by making fort, right? So, this effort to fortify settlements and carry on profitable trade also led to intense conflict with the local rulers. See, this is what the trading that European companies they were doing that way. They carried on their trade with arms and they started having the fortification for their trading post, right? But then when all these activities were carried on by them, the local rulers they went against that. They were having the conflicts with them on this point. The company therefore found it difficult to separate trade from politics. Now let us see how this happened. So East India Company begins trade in Bengal. Now here the first English factory was set up on the banks of the river Hooghly in 1651. River Hooghly is in West Bengal. Okay. By 1696, it began building a fort around the settlement. This was the base that the factory that has been set up. This was the base from which the company's traders, known at that time as factors, operated. Now here factors word has come from the factory. Factors means the company traders. The company traders, those who were working in that factory, they were known as factors there. So by 1696, it began building a fort around the settlement. 2 years later, it bribed Mughal officials into giving the company zamindari rights. Now what is that zamindari rights? Zamindari rights are connected to right to collect taxes over 3 villages. The 3 villages that were Sutanuti, Gobindapur and Kalikata. Kolkata was first Kalikata. See here it is given. Then Calcutta and afterwards became Kolkata. But today presently we call it as Kolkata, right? The East India Company also persuaded the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb to issue a farman. Now what is the meaning of farman? Farman means a royal edict or a royal order, granting the company the right to trade duty free. Like that farman should include that the company can do the trade in our country. They will get the right to trade duty free without paying any taxes on that. The company tried continuously to press for more concessions and manipulate existing privileges. Aurangzeb's firman, for instance, had granted only the company the right to trade duty free, right? The firman that was issued by Aurangzeb, it gives only the concession to the company itself. But officials of the company who were carrying on private trade on the side were expected to pay duty, but they also refused to pay, causing an enormous loss of revenue for Bengal. Because if the revenue is if the duty free taxes will not be paid by the people while trading, then definitely it will be the loss for the economy of Bengal, right? So how could the Nawab of Bengal, Murshid Quli Khan, not protest? He'll be happy with this decision that everybody, not only the company but the officials, are also taking the undue advantage of the farman that has been issued by Aurangzeb. Now let's see in this topic how trade led to battles. See, in our last slide we saw that the farman that was issued by the Aurangzeb was misused by the company officials, right? Then through the early 18th century, the conflict between the company and the Nawabs of Bengal intensified. It was going on increasing. After the death of Aurangzeb, the Bengal Nawabs asserted their power and autonomy as the other regional powers were doing at that time. Now here you can see the Nawabs of Bengal has been given to here. Murshid Quli Khan was followed by Alivardi Khan and then Sirajuddaulah as the Nawab of Bengal. Each one of them was a strong ruler. They refused to grant the company concessions, demanded large tributes for the company's right to trade, denied it any right to mint coins, and stopped it from extending its fortification. Accusing the company of deceit, they claimed that the company was depriving the Bengal government of huge amounts of revenue and undermining the authority of the Nawab. It was refusing to pay taxes, writing disrespectful letters, trying to humiliate the Nawab and his officials. The company on its part declared that the unjust demands of the local officials were ruining the trade of the company, and trade could flourish only if the duties were removed. It was also convinced that to expand trade, it had to enlarge its settlements, buy new villages, and rebuild its forts. So the ideas of the companies, this conflict, it was continuous, it was going on. The conflicts led to confrontations and finally culminated in the famous Battle of Plassey. Now here, the Battle of Plassey. Before starting with this, let us understand the Plassey, from where this word has come. Plassey is an anglicized pronunciation of Palashi, and the place derived its name from the Palash tree, known for its beautiful red flowers that yield gulal. Gulal is a Hindi word, the powder that we used in the festival of Holi. Now, when Alivardi Khan died in 1756, Sirajuddaulah became the Nawab of Bengal. The company was worried about his power and keen on a puppet ruler. Now, puppet ruler means what? Puppet means, you all know very well. Puppet is a toy which can be played by using the fingers, by using the strings are there in that puppet that can be moved by moving our fingers. So this term in this context has been used here, the person who is controlled by someone else. It means company officials, company wanted the rulers, the Nawabs, in such a way they should be the puppet ruler. Whatever the company is telling them to do, they should do according to that. So keen on a puppet ruler who would willingly give trade concessions and other privileges. So it tried, though without success, to help one of Sirajuddaullah's rivals become the Nawab. An infuriated Sirajuddaulah asked the company to stop meddling in the political affairs of his dominance, stop fortification and pay the revenues. This is what Sirajuddaulah demanded from the company officials. But after negotiations failed, the Nawab marched with 30,000 soldiers to the English factory at Kasim Bazar, captured the company officials, locked the warehouse, disarmed all Englishmen, and blockaded English ships. Then he marched to Calcutta to establish control over the company's fort there. Now here, when all these things were done by Sirajuddaulah, whether then on hearing the news of the fall of Calcutta, the company officials, whether they'll be sitting quietly? No. Company officials in Madras sent forces under the command of Robert Clive. Here I have given you the image of Robert Clive. Then, finally in 1757, Robert Clive led the company's army against Sirajuddaulah at Plassey. Now, we have seen Nawab was having 30,000 soldiers, whereas Clive was having only 2,200 soldiers. If you will see the comparison, definitely you all will say that battle will be defeated. The Nawab will be the winners, as well as the company will be defeated, right? But this did not happen in this. One of the main reasons for the defeat of the Nawab was that the forces led by Mir Jafar, Mir Zafar. Now here the Mir Zafar was one of the Sirajuddaullah's commander. He betrayed. How he betrayed? By not fighting, by not participating in the battle. Why he betrayed? Because company bribed him. Company bribed him by saying what? Clive. Company means Robert Clive. He bribed him. What did he say? Clive had managed to secure his support by promising him to make him the Nawab after crushing Sirajuddaulah. This is what he convinced him. Once Sirajuddaulah is crushed, then you will be as the Nawab of Bengal. So he agreed to that terms and he betrayed by not fighting, as he was the chief commander of his army, right? So in this way the Battle of Plassey was lost by Sirajuddaulah, and it became famous because it was the first major victory the company won in India. The Battle of Plassey took place on 23rd of June 1757 on the banks of Hooghly River, about 150 kilometers north of Calcutta and south of Murshidabad. But then this was lost because of Mir Zafar's betrayal. After the defeat at Plassey, Sirajuddaulah was assassinated and Mir Zafar made the Nawab. See, as he has been given the condition, right, you support us, that he was bribed by the company officials that he will be the next Nawab, right? The company was still unwilling to take over the responsibility of administration. See, the main purpose of company to come to our country was for trade. It was not like they want to rule us, not of the administration, right? Its prime objective was the expansion of trade. If this could be done without conquest, through the help of local rulers who were willing to grant privileges, then territories need not to be taken over directly. Soon, the company discovered that this was rather difficult, for even the puppet Nawabs were not always as helpful as the company wanted them to be. Because puppet Nawabs also cannot do everything as per the company's wish, right? After all, even they had to maintain a basic appearance of dignity and sovereignty if they wanted the respect from their subjects. So, what could the company do then? When Mir Zafar protested, the company deposed him and installed Mir Qasim in his place. Now, who's Mir Qasim? Mir Qasim is son-in-law of Mir Zafar. After the defeat at Plassey, Sirajuddaulah was assassinated and Mir Zafar made the Nawab. See, as he has been given the condition, right, you support us, that he was bribed by the company officials that he will be the next Nawab, right? The company was still unwilling to take over the responsibility of administration. See, the main purpose of company to come to our country was for trade. It was not like they want to rule us, not of the administration, right? Its prime objective was the expansion of trade. If this could be done without conquest, through the help of local rulers who were willing to grant privileges, then territories need not to be taken over directly. Soon, the company discovered that this was rather difficult, for even the puppet Nawabs were not always as helpful as the company wanted them to be. Because puppet Nawabs also cannot do everything as per the company's wish, right? After all, even they had to maintain a basic appearance of dignity and sovereignty if they wanted the respect from their subjects. Mir Zafar was deposed because he was protesting for dignity and sovereignty and hence was replaced by Mir Qasim. Now, who is Mir Qasim? Mir Qasim is son-in-law of Mir Zafar. When Mir Qasim complained, even he did not agree to the terms and conditions of the company officials. He in turn was defeated in a battle fought at Buxar in the year 1764. Now let's see what is that Battle of Buxar. The Battle of Buxar was a decisive battle which defined British as a ruler that was fought between English forces, that is between the East Company and the combined army of Mir Qasim, the Nawab of Bengal, the Nawab of Gauj and Shah Alam II. even the Mughal emperor. The Shah Alam too was a Mughal emperor. The battle was the outcome of the misuse of Farman. You all remember the Farman that was given by Aurangzeb, right? And also the trade expansionist aspiration of English. Like English people, that is, the company was behind the expansion of the trade, right? That battle took place on 22nd October 1764. The Battle of Buxar was proved itself to be the turning point in the history of India. Then once the Battle of Buxar was Mir Qasim was defeated in the battle, he was driven out of Bengal, and again Mir Zafar was reinstalled in his place. In 17th and 18th century, the Nawab had to pay rupees 500,000, that means 5 lakh every month. Now you can imagine the amount 5 lakh at that time. That is in the 17th and 18th century. But the company wanted more money to finance its wars and meet the demands of trade and its other expenses. It wanted more territories and more revenue. By the time Mir Zafar died in 1765, the mood of the company had changed. Having failed to work with the puppet Nawabs, even they were tired of working with the puppet Nawabs. Clive declared that we must indeed become Nawab ourselves. Finally, in 1765, the Mughal emperor appointed the company as the Diwan of the provinces of Bengal. Now here, what is Diwani rights here? They got the Diwani rights. That is, see, previously we learnt about the Zamindari rights that were related to the tax collection, correct? Now Diwani rights is connected to the tax as well as the civil cases, that both were included in that. The Diwani allowed the company to use the vast revenue resources of Bengal. This solved a major problem that the company had earlier faced. From the early 18th century, its trade with India had expanded, but it had to buy most of the goods in India with gold and silver imported from Britain. This was because at that time Britain had no goods to sell in India. So the outflow of gold from Britain slowed after the Battle of Plassey and entirely stopped after the assumption of Diwani. Now, revenue from India could finance company expenses. These expenses could be used to purchase cotton and silk textiles in India. Even they were maintaining company troops and they were meeting the cost of building the company forts and offices in Calcutta. It means the extent of revenue that they were collecting from India was too high that each and every expenses was bared by that revenue collection itself. So here we have come to an end of this topic, that is the Battle of Plassey as well as the Battle of Buxar. So students, today we just started with the first topic, that is introduction. After that we started with the East India Company comes east, right? In that we saw East India Company begins trade in Bengal, right? Then we saw how trade led to battles and the Battle of Plassey and the Battle of Buxar, correct? Still many more topics are there. We'll be doing that in the next session. Now here it's an activity for you. Write a short note on the Battle of Plassey. Okay, write it in the assignment sheets and keep it with you. And children, after this, download the PDF of your chapter number 2 of history from NCERT textbook link and go through these topics. Whatever we have done in today's session, just read from the textbook. Okay, so see you in the next session with the further topics of the same chapter. Okay, bye. Till then, take care.